This is Earl Amin with the 2020 Foresight Podcast, where CEOs of small to global companies share their insights. It is 6 questions in 9 minutes because top CEOs know how to listen and be concise. So let's get to it. First of all, welcome. And in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
Hello, my name is Kathleen Allen, and I run a small consulting firm that works with leaders, organizational leaders who are playing at the edge of leadership, large-scale organizational or systems change, and innovation.
Outstanding. Well, tell me, Kathleen, what's the best thing about being the CEO of the company?
For me, I measure my success based on impact and sustainable change. So I am always trying to figure out how do I work with people in a way that the change holds and it creates an impact over time. So I enjoy that, and I really enjoy the discretionary freedom I have for this work.
Nice.
It's really fun doing that.
I'll bet it is. And I'm sure on your pathway to this position, you've spoken and met with other CEOs, just as I have. And I hear that leading the team and being able to see the road ahead can be quite the challenge. What are your thoughts?
Especially at this moment in time, it's such an interesting time coming out of the last 12 months where the freneticness of our day-to-day work shifted to much less because we weren't on the road commuting and other things. And we weren't in organizations with all of the bumping, kind of like bumper cars, bumping into people that would then accelerate perhaps our freneticness. But we have shifted that decrease with a corresponding huge increase in unknown and having to deal with unknowns. I've been working with people who have had to radically redesign their business model over the last year. And so the disruption, I like to work with people to help build resilience in their companies and in themselves. And so being able to absorb disruption and still maintain function is one of the things I've been focusing on this year. So my thought on seeing things and leading teams in times of radical kind of ambiguity and unknown, I think is partly an exercise in scanning the environment and seeing what's emerging and what's being experimented on, because they can often give us an indication that these are the new experiments that are going to hold going forward.
Very good. Well, throughout all of that gained wisdom, what specific piece of insight do you want to share with other CEOs?
A couple of things come to mind. One is, so I have my doctorate in leadership, and so I've deeply engaged in both the practice and the study of it. But one of the things that rarely gets talked about in our leadership theory or practice is that your ability to develop people matters, and it matters significantly. And this idea that we are not just directing or motivating or attracting people into a certain kind of vision, but we're also developing the capacity of people in their organizations and in all of our organizations to really reach higher and be better people and be better contributors to the larger purpose of our organization and our life. So I think that's one big thing. And then the second is to really take care of yourself. How are we balancing our own work-life balance? And how are we protecting and nurturing the relationships, the authentic relationships that we have with people? We're living in a world with greater and greater interdependence. And when you have more of a networked world, the quality of our relationships matter significantly. I think all change flows down along lines of relationship and at the speed of trust. So I guess my other piece of advice to CEOs would be make sure you have relationships that are built on trust and authenticity and are being nurtured in a high quality way.
I love that speed of trust. Yes, very good. Well, tell me this, as you've interacted and taken data from your experiences with other CEOs, what other successful CEOs like yourself would you like to acknowledge or give a shout out to and should be on my podcast?
I think Armando Camacho would be a great person to invite into your podcast. He's the CEO of the Wilder Foundation in St. Paul. And I've worked with him as a consultant through two of his previous organizations. And he's just really very, very skilled and wise in terms of how to lead organizations. And so that would be one. I think one of the beautiful gifts of the pandemic for me is that I've been able to connect on Zoom with people all around the world. And so Martin Murphy would be another person. He runs a consulting company out of the UK, and he's quite entertaining to listen to, but also to, he has a book on elite teams from mercenaries to missionaries, and he's quite good too. Yeah. So those would be two suggestions.
Humbly receive them. Thank you. So now, Dr. Allen, for the final question, how do you celebrate a win?
You know, the illusion of leadership and management is that the credit for the win tends to defy gravity and roll up to the top. But the reality is that we can't really make any significant wins without a whole bunch of company around us. So I celebrate the win by acknowledging how all of us working together have created something significant. When I start thinking that this is all to my credit, for example, I find that's a slippery slope of ego, and it's a myth. It defies what the real reality is, which is we do it with, we don't do it to.
Yes, we're not alone. Mm-hmm. Outstanding. Dr. Allen, it's been a pleasure having you on today. How can people find you?
Sorry about that.
They can call you.
I should have unplugged it. Shoot. Okay, so do you want to? So people can find me a number of ways. First of all, I'm an author, and I've written a book called Leading from the Roots: Nature-Inspired Leadership Lessons for Today's World. So you can find me on Amazon or your favorite bookstore that way. You can find me on my website, KathleenAllen.net. You can follow me on Twitter at Dr. Kathy Allen, or you can find me on LinkedIn at Kathy Allen on LinkedIn. And I write a blog, so if people like these ideas, I do a weekly blog to talk about how nature can be a great teacher for us in leadership today.
Awesome. This is Earl Amin with the 2020 Foresight Podcast. For more insights, go to LinkedIn and search for The Gray Owl Company. Dr. Allen, thank you very much.
Thank you, Earl. It was great to be here.